Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, December 9. If you are watching live on Monday, December 9, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 1677. As always, you can watch our meetings live on both Verizon and Optimum Cable TV, and within a few days you can pick up an on-demand webcast of this meeting as well as past meetings at pctv76.org. So tonight we begin with our Youth Community Service Awards. Rob Daniele from PKF O'Connor Davies is here to present last year's audit. And it is possible that this is the best audience you've ever had for that, but in order to let you down easily, they're all going to leave before you start talking. So
you don't have to leave.
I just want to thank you all for coming, and we will shortly begin the process of thanking each one of you and your parents and organizational leaders for all that you do for this village. It is obviously an extraordinarily tough time right now. We've had a very, very difficult few days here in the village of Pleasantville, and those difficult days are not over. But I can't tell you how impressive, even inspiring it has been to see the support of so many folks in the village of Pleasantville for each of us, and the extraordinary work that has been done by so many people in the police department, the county police department, the school district, the churches, all of the organizations that support this good place called Pleasantville. So amid the disquiet that we confront, I can't think of a better way to note today than to have all of you here and to thank all of you for what you do, because it's that very work that sets the tone for this community, and it has been reflected in so many ways in the last few days, and I know it will be going forward. So I just want to thank you all for the extraordinary service that you guys represent, and for the role models that you as young people present, not only for all of us who are older than you are, but for the younger folks who are behind you. So just exactly the thing we ought to be doing on this Monday, December 9, and I thank you. So we have a whole bunch of organizations, and we are going to invite each of you up and call you out. We have a certificate to give you, and a small token of our appreciation. We'll invite each group to speak a little bit about what it is they do, if they're so inclined, whether it's an adult leader or a leader in the youth group. And as I have said in the past, and I will say again, we have a certificate for each of you, and if we have gotten your name wrong or misspelled it, do not suffer in silence. You need to tell Eric or Noreen, and we will make sure that that gets fixed, because it is our hope and expectation that you'll receive those certificates in the spirit in which we give them, which is gratitude for all that you do. So with that, we'll start from the podium.
You want us to go in front?
Yeah, come on up front. First on our list is the VIP sports program. Colleen, welcome.
Hi there, it's nice to see everybody. So I'm here for the VIP sports program. For those of you who are not aware, it's our 13th year, and these kids come out every Sunday morning from September to June, and they buddy up with athletes who are not able to participate on mainstream teams. So kids who have developmental disabilities or physical disabilities and aren't able to play on competitive teams. And they get up at very early on Sunday mornings, they turn in their phones, and they do a magnificent job. We just started basketball last weekend. We had 30 athletes and 40 teens from the high school to show up to be the buddies, and we would not run this program without them. I'm so incredibly awed by their dedication and appreciative for all that they do. So tonight we're honoring 4 of our seniors who have donated more than half of their high school time to the program, and they're true leaders in the program, and they're young men and women that I'm really proud to work with. I feel as if they're my colleagues. So the first I'm going to call up is Abia. Come on up. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Thank you. Carly Bavalitza. Carolyn Lee.
Thank you.
She here? I don't know if he's here. Is Christian here? Christian Davies? No?
Hey, Carolyn. Thank you.
So let's give Christian a hand.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Farmers Market Food Chester, are you ready, or are you still waiting for an arrival? Come on up. Steve Bates, Peter Raghavan.
Peter Raghavan, Steve Bates.
Thanks. I'm Peter Raghavan. I'm the volunteer president of Food Chester, the group that runs the farmers market. I'm going to let Steve do all the talking and introduce the interns. If you've actually never seen Steve this still. He's usually just a blur of green in the market. We have a big market in the summer. We have about 2,500 to 3,000 people, so it's a big operation to get it ready. Anyone who's just done a Thanksgiving dinner knows there's a lot of details to tend to, and a lot of people show up hungry. And Steve manages the whole program with the interns, trains them, assigns them, and does such a great job with them. So, Steve, thank you for what you do, and thank you to all the interns and all the parents. Hit it.
I, as executive director of the market operations of the market, usually get that title down to person who organizes the talents of others. So we have really talented growers. We have a really talented group of adult volunteers. I'm constantly putting together these resources, and one of our greatest resources are the kids. The team we have show up an hour and a half before the market opens, and they stay an hour and a half after. Every person that could have gotten a broccoli or something is gone. There's still work to be done. And so these long shifts add up to really the engine that keeps the circus tent going up and down. But once we're open, they really are our front of house smile. I mean, they're really our first person. So often I'm not around. I'm running here and there. They're the person that says good morning at the front of the market. They're the ones that welcome the kids to our kids' events. They're the ones that welcome the musicians when they arrive to put together their professional performance for the day. So it's really hard to find me, but it's really easy to find them. And they're looking for the shoppers as they come in. They're looking for the vendors when they come in. They really take seriously their commitment and their role, and so do we. And so my privilege tonight is really just to point out how great and generous and super fun these kids are to work with. They're great people. And I think I speak for everyone in commending all the high school students that we are acknowledging tonight. Ours are just a sliver of the pie, but I'm so happy and grateful to work with this group. So, with that said, would the following Pleasantville market interns please come up as I read your name, if you are here. Brendan Cooper, if you're here tonight. Grace Cusack. Cecilia Folman. Emma Lees. Aliona Myrick. Bridget O'Mara. And if we have anything for Patrick, we'll give that to you as well. Ellie Perlman. Deanna Reynolds. Annie Raghavan. Jordan Rosen. Victoria Stargiotti. And I know that Josh Zweibaum just texted me saying that it was tonight that his teacher decided to give 100 pounds of homework, and he asked his forgiveness. I said, that's fine, just don't do your homework this Saturday from 8 until 10, as you have a shift. And so we thank Josh Zweibaum as well. Thank you very much.
You guys want bags for the folks that are here?
Yes.
Two?
the category of the apple not falling far from the tree, the next category is the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department. A bunch of folks being honored who are following in the footsteps of their dads. I invite the Volunteer Fire Department. You want to speak, Stefan? Chief Zaplatel. Sorry, just say hello.
Oh, all right. I can read this stuff.
There you go. You're all set.
Oh, all right.
You can improvise it.
Okay. Good evening. I'm the chief of the department, and for over 120 years, the Pleasantville Fire Department has been proud to serve the community. Our youth organization, the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department Junior Corps, for members under 18, gives the youth of Pleasantville an excellent opportunity to earn teamwork skills and mature into responsible, community-focused adults. And in this group, I guess I'll read the names now? Or?
Yes, please do.
Sure. We have Matthew Colmenares. Zach Malozzi. Michael Ruffino, Jr. And Luke Scopino. Both Matthew and Luke are following in their father's footsteps. Luke's father is currently the second assistant chief and ex-chief, and Matthew's father is an ex-chief and current captain. There are two that could not be here tonight, Leonard Balducci and Kyle Saul. Oh, and Zach is following in his father's footsteps also. And Mike. All of them. So, thank you.
Thank you. So I guess that's an indication that if your parent is in the fire department, you're pretty well stuck, right? You got to sign up. So thank you all for all you do. Not only is it a remarkable service to our community that you folks stand by to keep us safe, but the idea that you have created this format for young people to come into the fold, and it's our goal and expectation that those are the chiefs of the future that we just called out tonight. So you're not allowed to leave. You have to stay here for the rest of your lives. So aside from that, do whatever you want. Pleasantville High School Echo. Is there someone who would like to comment about the activities of Echo, or should I offer this brief statement that they gave us?
Thank you, Rob.
No takers? All right. These students have all contributed a minimum of 50 hours of community service over the past school year through blood drives, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Student of the Year campaigns, peer tutoring, various charitable walks and runs, the Tina Gambino 5K, toy drive for Westchester Medical Center Oncology Unit, food pantry collections, and many more. Echo has obviously been around at the high school for quite a few years and has been a focus of volunteer activity, and those young people have for years driven so many of these activities for our community. So first is Amber Alarahi. Scott Castillo. Maya Mayers. Thank you. Jenna McAllister. Not here. All right, there you go. Thank you. Take two, they're small. Molly Perrine. You want to take Molly's too? We're turning you into a beast of burden here. Volunteer service to deliver these to those who weren't here. Michael Ruffino Jr. as so often happens among young people as well as adults, they show up in more than one column. Thank you, sir. And Riley Vavalitsa. Oh, sure, please.
Thank you. I just saw him come in.
Yes.
So I'm Colleen again, and I just saw one of the gentlemen that we wanted to honor. So if I can ask Christian to come on up. He's never late for VIP, though.
Thank you, Christian.
You go back.
Pleasantville Community Synagogue. Is there anyone who'd like to speak here? Please come. All right. There's a brief statement here. I'm sure you can improvise.
Did I write it? Hi, I'm Layla.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm president of the Pleasantville Community Synagogue. We're a scrappy little synagogue. It's been here for almost 97, I think, June 97. So this nominator was Galit Sperling, who many of you know may know from our stages, who's also our Hebrew school principal. Molly Gallen is our nominee. She's a teacher's assistant in the synagogue's religious school on Sunday mornings, working with children in kindergarten through second grade. This is Molly's third year of volunteering with the program, where she donates over 40 hours of service a year. Our kids go to Hebrew school Thursday night and Sundays, and if we didn't have volunteers, I don't think we'd still be here. Is Molly here? Oh, there you are. I walked right by you.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
On the floor.
Emmanuel Lutheran Church has nominated 4 folks who are part of their Emmanuel Ringers Handbell Choir. Welcome.
Prepared. I need to write something.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Aiko Cornelius. I'm the handbell director at Emmanuel Lutheran Church. The 4 youth I'm recognizing today are part of a group of 12 ringers, members and non-members of our church. They practice for 2 hours weekly from September to June. And they provide music not only for our own worship, but for the community, as well as give concerts locally and internationally. Last year, about this time, we had a benefit concert to raise money. We raised about $1,400 from offerings taken at the concert to benefit the Westchester Exceptional School, which is based in North Salem. Our annual concert is coming up this Sunday, which will raise money for the SPCA of Westchester, and the ringers actually choose who the beneficiary is, and so they decide amongst themselves. So each of these ringers, there's 4 ringers, Cynthia O'Brien, Nick Webke, Brendan Webke, and Miyako Cornelius. One of them couldn't be here because she's at another orchestra dress rehearsal, but each of them have given 5 to 9 years of their time. They started in 3rd grade, and some are in 9th, some of them are in 11th. So I appreciate their time, their dedication, and commitment to this vital part of the music ministry that inspires people through their music. Sometimes you can't speak with words, so music is a good way to do it. And thank you to the Village of Pleasantville for recognizing all these students who are willing to give of their time and their talents.
So I see you have a performance coming up.
There is on Sunday.
All right, come on.
So Sunday,
Advertise.
there's a concert at 7 p.m. It's
Yep.
a joint concert that we have with the church in Katona. This year it's local, so it's at our church at Emmanuel behind BRS. Anyone's welcome to come, and SPCA will come, and they said they're going to bring a dog, so we're excited.
All right, why don't you call out the names one by one?
Miyako Cornelius, who is at a dress rehearsal.
Okay.
Cynthia O'Brien.
Here's a bag.
Brendan Webke. And Nicholas Webke.
Thank you. The last in our stack tonight, but by no means the least, is the Appalachia Service Project mission that's operated out of the Pleasantville Presbyterian Church. Gail Zarek, enter and sign in, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone who's here. Appalachia Service Project, or ASP, is a nonprofit based in Tennessee that aims to eradicate substandard housing in central Appalachia. It's a part of our country that has persistent high poverty rates. And ASP came up with the brilliant and crazy idea of asking youth volunteers to help eradicate that substandard housing by doing home repair for people who live really at the end of their ropes, people who don't know where to turn for help, and somehow, miraculously, teenagers arrive from all over the country to repair and rebuild their homes. Pleasantville has been sending volunteers since 1999, and we operate under the oversight of the Presbyterian Church, but anyone who's willing to volunteer, whether you're a youth or an adult, is absolutely invited to volunteer with us. This is 2019, and 1999 was 20 years ago. I did some digging and I looked through our records, and in that time, 292 people have come from Pleasantville to repair and rebuild homes of people who live generally in West Virginia or in the surrounding edges of the border states, and 222 of those are youths. They've made a substantial impact in Appalachia for many, many families. But it's not just in Appalachia that there's a need for people who are at the end of their ropes, for people who feel as if they're desperate and they don't have any hope or anyone to turn to. There's hope, there's need in our own community. And one of the great things that we've learned through our volunteering on ASP is that we are empowered to not only help others, we are empowered not only for teenagers to help rebuild a home for a person who lives in poverty in West Virginia, for example, but to come home and recognize the hope and help that's needed here. If you want to volunteer with us at any time, please do. We're also looking for adults to volunteer, because it's through adults who oversee those youths that we can keep this program going. I'm so grateful to this community, to the leadership of our town, for encouraging and recognizing all of our youths, all of our volunteers who help in this and many other efforts. And so this year we had 45 volunteers, and you have a list of them here.
We'll ask you to read them out.
I'll read them off. Okay, these are the youth volunteers who went with us to Craigsville, West Virginia this year for a 9-day mission trip to repair and rebuild people's homes. First is Charlie Allen. We also have Michael Collins, Brian D'Alessandro, also Joe D'Angelo, Ryan Durgans, Megan Ennis, by the way, the average youth who has done this has gone on over 2 mission trips, but none of these youths are average. They're all just amazing in my mind. Tom Lombardo, Jack Minelli, AJ Moore, Sean Rapley, and Travis Rapley. Owen Stone. And Isabella Tomei, she's not here tonight. Her mom sent me an email, but I wanted to thank and recognize all of our volunteers, and thank again this village board for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you for what you do. Okay, opposed, they'll deliver you 8 bags there. So thank you, Gail. Thank you to every one of you, and thank you to the parents who make this possible, to the adult leaders who make this possible. You've got a few hints here, including the Bell Ringers concert this weekend, which we encourage you to go to. Sign up for Appalachia Service Project. Please do not have a fire. But in the context of some of all that's gone on here in the village in the last several days, I had occasion to remark that I am both stunned and not surprised, if you can be both of those things at the same time. And although it was in a slightly different context, the same applies here. I am consistently amazed by the depth of goodwill in this community, and you all young people represent that so brightly here tonight. It's a uniquely appropriate moment to say that. Thank you all. So we're going to take a brief break while we set up for the auditors, and those of you who are civics geeks, here's your opportunity. So congratulations to all those young people, and to the families and to the organizations that have led them to these accomplishments. We have further agenda tonight, and we'll be moving on to it shortly. I just wanted to add one additional piece further to my comments at the outset. It's obviously been an extraordinarily difficult time for almost everybody in the village. The tragic events of Thursday continue to be felt deeply all around the village in 1,000 different ways. But I'd like to make a special shout out to the folks of the Pleasantville Police Department and their colleagues from the Westchester County Police Department who have served us and our community in remarkable ways in extraordinarily trying circumstances. You should be proud of your police department, never more so than today. So, with that somewhat somber introduction, sorry to lead you, Rob, into that, but we welcome back Rob Daniele from PKF O'Connor Davies to present the results of the audit for the fiscal year ended May 31, 2019.
Thank you and good evening. Here we go. All right, so I put together a PowerPoint to kind of condense the financial statements into a few slides. But before I begin, I just wanted to thank the administrator, Eric Morrissey, Noreen Regan, the finance folks, Mary Schwartz and Noreen McGinty, again for their professionalism and really being available throughout the entire process. So if we turn to page 2, I put together an agenda. We'll quickly go through a summary overview of responsibilities as far as management and our responsibilities and certain required communications. We're going to spend a little time in a general fund, although the village operates several other funds. The general fund is the main operating account adopted by the board. And then we'll touch upon those other funds, some debt service requirements. We'll talk about the OPEB obligations, although I know you have a presentation coming up, and we do consider fraud in our audit process. So page 3 of the PowerPoint, again, we perform some preliminary work, so we're here in May, and then we come back in August to complete the audit. We have some follow-up and completion in September. Our audit report is dated October 2nd, 2019. Our deliverables include the independent auditor's report, which is the 3 pages that follow the table of contents in the actual audit report, and we'll discuss that in a moment. We have our certain required communications along with our management letter. We do audit the Village Justice Court and issue a separate report. And also not included in here, we do audit the Pleasantville Community TV, which is a component unit of the village. And although we do issue a separate report, it's included in the village report as well because it is a component unit. Page 4, again, quickly, management is responsible to select and implement the appropriate accounting policies and to fairly present the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And since we assist management with the preparation of the financial statements, we make sure that all the standards are up to date. Management is also responsible to establish and maintain effective internal controls, to comply with laws, regulations, and contracts, and really to provide us with all the information so that we can perform the audit. Our responsibility on page 5, again, we perform the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards to ensure that the audit is designed to achieve reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. Again, we form and express an opinion on the basic financial statements as a whole. We have issued what is termed an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that an entity can receive, and it basically states that the financial statements present fairly the financial results of the village at a specific point in time as of May 31st, 2019, again in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We are required to communicate in writing deficiencies and internal controls that we consider to be material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or control deficiencies. I'm happy to report that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We did have a comment or two or an observation that would improve internal controls. We are also required to communicate any fraud or illegal acts that are noted during the course of the audit. And again, there was no fraud or allegations of fraud that were noted during the audit. As far as, again, we encounter no difficulties in the conduct of our audit. In fact, the business office was extremely organized and very cooperative. As far as uncorrected and corrected misstatements, we didn't pass in any journal entries. If there was any entry proposed, it was recorded by management. Again, no disagreements with management, and we are independent with respect to the village. Page 6 is a summary of your general fund, revenues and expenditures compared to budget. Again, 4 columns there. The first column is your original budget, which is what the board approved back in the spring of 2018. From a high level, your aggregate revenues were $15.6 million. Your expenditures were $15.3 million, representing an excess of revenues over expenditures of $356,000. When you factor in certain what we call other financing sources and uses, which are transfers in and out amongst the funds, you come down to a net change in fund balance, the bracketed $390,000. That's what the village used of its own resources, what the village appropriated in 2018 to be used to balance the 2019 and thus provide a form of property tax relief. The middle column is the final budget during the year. There's some unanticipated revenues that come in, unanticipated expenditures that occur. You can see that the revenue side of the budget was modified about $150,000 or so to account for certain state aid, some music festival fees, and so on. Expenditures were modified upwards of around $270,000 for some capital projects from tax certiorari's. And the transfers outline, you can see, was amended upwards about $185,000 to do some capital projects work, specifically for the rec center renovations as well as Manorville Road improvements. So you can see that your net change in fund balance went from a bracketed $390,000 to a bracketed $692,000. So if everything went according to your plan, you would anticipate using your own resources just under $700,000 to balance the budget. The third column is your actual results. You can see your actual revenues came in at $16.2 million compared to your final budget of $15.8 million, a favorable variance of $391,000, roughly 2.5% of the budget. The expenditures came in at $14.4 million, $1.1 million better than you anticipated, representing a little over 7% of the budget. You factor in your other financing sources and uses, and you come down to your net change in fund balance, where you had revenues that exceeded expenditures by just under $730,000. So you're able to add that to your fund balance, your opening fund balance of $4.1 million, and you end the year at just under $4.9 million. Some of that money is set aside, and we'll talk about it in slide 13. But more importantly, to point out that net change in fund balance line, you anticipated using $390,000 of your own resources. That was amended upwards to $692,000. When your actual results came in, you can see that the village had revenues that exceeded expenditures and generated profit, if you will, of $730,000. So that swing from anticipating $692,000 of using your own resources to actually generating $730,000 is a budgetary surplus all the way to the right of $1.4 million. Page 7 is just 6 or 7 categories on the revenue side of the budget. Again, it's not all of your revenues. It makes up about 90% of your revenues. Your property taxes, you can see your property taxes, you remain within the 2% tax cap over the past 4 years. You can see in the real property tax line that your revenues appear to exceed your budget. However, these are just accounting treatments. You had tax collections last year were a little bit slower, so any funds, any amounts not received had to be deferred. The tax collections were a lot better this year, so some of that money was recognized in the current year. It's not that you collected more than your levy, it's just an accounting treatment. Your non-property tax distribution from the county is your sales tax. You can see your sales tax is up slightly, about just under $30,000, but you did just under $100,000 better than you anticipated in your final budget. Your parks and recreation charges, again, up about $35,000 compared to the prior year. The prior year included some after-school program expansion, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Your parking permits and parking meters, pretty consistent with the prior year, and pretty much in line with your budgeted numbers. Your fines and forfeited bill, which are your tickets, they're actually down about I guess $100,000 or so compared to the prior year. Your mortgage tax revenues are actually down about $9,000 or $10,000 or so compared to 2018. Also down slightly compared to your final budget. And you did have a transfer in from the water fund where you anticipated transferring $325,000. You actually transferred $200,000. There were some capital needs in the water fund, so the village didn't transfer everything that it anticipated. Page 8 is just those same 6 or 7 revenues, a 5-year look back. As I mentioned, your property taxes, you've remained within the 2% tax cap since 2016. Your sales tax, which is the non-property tax distribution from the county, that's been trending upwards over the past 5 years since 2015. Your parks and recreation charges, again, in 2017, you implemented some after-school programs, and you can see that the big jump in 17, and that has continued in 18 into 19. Although there are increases in revenues, you can see, we will see that there are some increases in expenses as well in those line items. Your parking permits and parking meters, again, there was a slight fee increase that was implemented in 2016, but those revenues have remained pretty consistent over the past 4 years. Fines and forfeited bails, your ticket revenue decline in 2006 was trending upwards through 2008 and actually has dropped in 2009 to its lowest level in those 5 years. Your mortgage tax is correlated to the interest rates. Again, it peaked in 2016 and it's been gradually declining since then. And your transfers into the water fund, again, it's going to be based on what the village needs are. As you can see, in 2019, the village transferred $200,000. Page 9 are some of the selected major expenditures. Again, it's not all of the expenses. It's 6 or 7 items make up about 80% or so of the budget. Again, police expenses are up about $100,000 or so. Normal salary increases as well as an increase in overtime costs compared to 2018. Transportation expenses are actually down. There's less snow removal that was needed in 2019 compared to 2018. And thus that line shows a favorable variance of a little over $156,000. Parks and Recs programs are pretty much consistent to 2018. Actually $200,000 less than the final budget as well. Your employee and police retirement, up about $30,000 or so. It's comparable to the prior year as rates are set by the state and those monies are invested in the market. Those rates have not increased over the past couple of years. So those costs are in line with 2018. Your health insurance, NISHIP, is up about $73,000. When the budget was developed, rates were published that these NISHIP rates would increase 7 to 8%. It actually increased about 3%. So that was better than you anticipated, where you had savings there of a little over $200,000. You do transfer funds to the debt service fund to cover your principal and interest on your outstanding bonds that are due in 2019. And you do transfer funds to the capital projects funds, again, on an annual basis for your capital needs. Again, very quickly on page 10, those same expenditures over a 5-year period. You can see then the police expenditures, those costs probably have been going up about 3 or 4% a year, in line with salaries and overtime. Transportation costs have dropped in 2018, but have increased in 2017 and 18, consistent with the levels that were there in 2015. As I mentioned before, in your parks and recreation programs, as revenues increased in 2017, expenditures also increased due to part-time employees, your Panther Club, pool activities, and your music festivals. Your police retirement, again, pretty consistent over the past 4 years. Rates have been pretty steady. The increase is attributable to salaries and overtime charges. Health insurance have been increasing, as I mentioned, about 7 to 8% per year, consistent with the NISHIP increases and coverages for retirees. And then your transfers to the debt service fund, again, those are known amounts based on what you owe on your outstanding bonds. And your transfers to the capital projects, these are going to be based on the needs of the village again, and those will fluctuate from year to year. Page 11 is just a graph to show your revenues and expenditures. You can see from 2015 through 2017, your revenues in the general fund were exceeding your expenditures. In 2018, slight reversal where your expenditures exceeded your revenues by about $600,000 or so, and back to a favorable climb in 2019 where your revenues exceeded expenditures by over $700,000. Page 12 is just a composition of the breakdown of your revenues and expenses in the general fund. The top 3 drivers on the revenue side, you can see are your real property taxes, which make up about 2/3 of your budget. You have your non-property taxes, which is your sales tax, make up approximately 9% of the budget. And then the third highest line item there is your parks and recreation charges and your parking meters, which make up about 11% of your budget. On the expenditure side, you can see that your public safety costs are about 24%. Your employee benefits are roughly about 24%. Your culture and rec, which are your parks programs, are about 19%. And your general support, which are your administrative costs, are roughly about 10%. So as I mentioned before, on page 13, your fund balance, you were able to add to your fund balance to a total of $4.8 million. Again, this is a 5-year look back, but we're going to focus on 2019. You can see that, again, the total fund balance is $4.8 million. There are some money set aside for prepaid expenditures, $29,000. You do have monies restricted for future capital projects, a little under $48,000. What we call assign for subsequent years' expenditures, you are utilizing $200,000 to balance the current budget you're in, and again provide a form of property tax relief. And then your unassigned is up from $3.6 million to $4.6 million, so that's up about $1 million in the unassigned portion. We like to compare the unassigned to your 2020 adopted budget, and you're roughly just under 28%. So again, that's up from about 22% in the prior year. So again, that's an extremely healthy fund balance to have. Everyone asked for a target. The Government Finance Officers Association came out and said that your unassigned fund balance should be about 2 months of your annual expenditures. So again, if you took your 2020 adopted budget of $16.6 million and you broke that down on a monthly basis, you're looking at about $3.5 million or so in your unassigned, so you're well above that average. Page 14, as I mentioned, the village does operate other funds. You do have a water fund. We're about $4 million of revenues and $4 million of expenditures flow through there, and you do have a fund balance at the end of the year of $953,000. That money is assigned specifically for water purposes. You do have a debt service fund where you ended the year with a fund balance of $75,000. Those funds are restricted for to pay down of debt. You do have a capital projects fund. There are currently about 6 or 7 active projects. And you do have a fund balance of about $530,000, again restricted for those capital purposes. A refuse fund, again with the fund balance of $377,000, and a special purpose fund to account for some trusts and your parklands, and again that has a fund balance of just under $165,000. Page 15, I just wanted to put a slide of your debt service requirements. You can see that the village has, excuse me, $8.1 million of outstanding bonds. We are required to report those payments to maturity over the next 5 years and then in increments of 5 years, which is towards the left of that page. But I just wanted to point out that in 2020, your debt service requirements are about $1.17 million, broken down into the 3 funds there. So you can see in the general fund, your debt service requirements are about 4.3% of your budget. In the water fund, your debt service requirements are a little over 11% of your budget, or the water fund budget. And in the refuse fund, your debt service requirements are a little over 1.5% of the refuse fund budget. Page 16, I know you have a presentation coming up on your OPEB obligations. This is some information that's included in your financial statements. Again, these are due retirees based on labor contracts that are currently in place. In New York State, there's no funding mechanism to put money aside for these purposes. There was a new reporting requirement in 2019. As you can see at the top there, your OPEB, in the past, they let you amortize the OPEB obligation over a 30-year period. The rules changed last year and said, hey, these prior service costs, you need to bring them up to speed. So you can see at the top of page 16, you did report $9.7 million as a liability last year for these OPEB obligations. With the new requirement, that number has jumped to $31.7 million.
Just a little change.
Again, this is a long-term liability. You're not the only thing on page 16, the bottom left, you can see benefit payments, the $742,000. That's what you're currently paying on a pay-as-you-go basis to fund these obligations. Like I said, there's no money set aside for this purpose. There's about 56 active employees and 65 retired employees that are receiving these benefits. It's all based on this discount rate. And on the bottom right, you can see that the discount rate used was at 3.05%. We are required to disclose, hey, if the rate dropped 1% to 2.05%, what would that number be? And you can see it actually goes up to $36 million. If the interest rate were 4.05%, you can see that the liability drops to $26 million. So again, no funding mechanism in place. This doesn't run through your budget process, only to the extent of those benefit payments made of $742,000. And then lastly, page 17, we do consider fraud in our audit procedures. We do a lot of inquiries of management and other personnel We look at journal entries to make sure the support is there. We look for reasonableness. When was the journal entry made? So we have software that kind of crunches those numbers. We look at canceled checks to make sure that the village is adhering to its check signing policy. And we look at bank reconciliations for unusual disbursements out of sequence checks. And again, nothing to report, no fraud or potential fraud was identified. That's it really. Overall, a really good year in 2019 compared to 2018. You're able to add to your fund balance, and as I mentioned before, you're well above the guidelines of what your unassigned fund balance should be.
Thank you, Rob. A couple of questions.
Sure.
How does our the percentage of our fund budgets devoted to debt service compare to typical, if there is such a thing as typical?
To communities of your size, I've seen that your general fund debt service requirements are 7 or 8%, so you are on the lower end as far as your general fund. Overall, when you take the average, you're probably at 6 or 7% when you factor in water, so you're at the norm.
And in the case of post-retirement benefits, is there discussion at the state legislative level about mechanisms to pre-fund those obligations?
Not at the current time, not in New York State.
Is that typical in states in general? I mean,
No, Connecticut has a funding mechanism. There are trust funds. New Jersey has funds, but they don't have a tax cap as well.
right. I mean, not that it would be in any
Right.
reasonable time frame possible to solve that problem. It does seem counterintuitive that there isn't a mechanism to do it.
Yeah.
Is that your view?
Yes, I think what they were trying to do is put all the communities, because it's not just the OPEB, they want to report all of your debt.
Right.
So in the past, like in your general fund, you just budget for your current year principal and interest. Nowhere do you show that you have $8 million of outstanding debt. So what the GASB did is said, hey, we're going to move all of these assets and liabilities on this other statement, if you will, above and beyond your
Right.
budget process. But
Reasonable and logical, but no way to
there's no way to fund
pre-fund those obligations or to
Correct.
build towards that.
Right, and you're not the only community. I mean, there's numbers up to $100 million.
I'm glad we're not that.
It depends on contracts that are in place and what they contribute as well.
Okay. Any other questions from? Thank you, sir.
So we didn't break out the unpaid bail this year?
What's that?
The change in bail status, that isn't going to affect us too much, cash bail. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Can you promise to deliver good results in the audit next year?
I can't promise, but
Yeah, I
I'll
guess
try.
we should be talking to those guys, right? Well, I want to thank you, Rob, and thank you, Eric, Mary, everybody, Noreen. It's been, obviously, we have an extremely strong finance department, treasurer, deputy treasurer, all the way down the line. And to have a former deputy treasurer in the role Noreen Regan now occupies is an added benefit to a deeper bench than we're accustomed to having. So I want to thank you all for all that good work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on a clean audit. That's great.
All right.
Testament to the
A
auditors.
follow-up to those post-retirement benefit numbers. Welcome Edward Echeverria, Danziger, and Markhoff.
This is the new.
That's a 5-year all combined. That was
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for inviting me to present.
Sorry.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
This year is a prime year for me to come and present because of the change from the old accounting statement 45 to the new accounting statement 75. Just to give a little brief history, going back 10, 11 years, All that was done from a financial statement standpoint was booking the retiree premium payments in and out, so no liability existed on the financials. So in around 2008, 2009, the Government Accounting Standards Board issued a statement to start showing liabilities on the books. Up to this point, there was something that was booked as a liability, and then also there was a footnote that listed the entire liabilities under the plan. So, but what was done was it was done like a hybrid type of phase-in of the full liability. Again, it was the 1 year cost plus an amortization of the past. Right. So again, to go all the way from pay-as-you-go to the full nut there would have been a lot of sobbing going on, I think, to say the least. So I think this was a good interim step, and you guys booked a liability of $9.7 million over the 10-year period. In the report all the time, and we're just going the first page of the report, and the numbers up in the right corner. I've always pointed to those numbers whenever I'm at a client or a board meeting or something, because those numbers are they're not impacted by whether you adopted a new GASB statement 4 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever the case. The liability is the liability. Granted, it's reflective of actuarial assumptions and things, but I've always pointed at that number, and the numbers there, $31 million. It was, that's a bit higher than the prior, because one of the elements that the new statement altered is they really want to zero in on like mark to market. So they really want to look at what the municipal bond rates are today, and so basically, since you can't pre-fund, we use a Standard & Poor's index, and the 3.05% interest rate was the rate for May 31, 2019.
From S&P.
Yes. Okay. So last week that rate was 3.2. But it changes every day. So, but that being the case, as a result of that rate dropping from 4.5% to 3.05, 4.5% was a long-term bond rate, effectively, and a historic one. So it wasn't a mark-to-market, but it was something you wouldn't expect to go up and down every year. But that's one reason why the liabilities went up. So, but anyway, so now the full $30 million is, now on the financial statement face, not just in a footnote. And as a result, you have a prior period adjustment of $20.6 million. Something similar to what took place several years ago on the pension plan side, when a similar type of adjustment was done, so that the full liability would be on rather than an amortization of sorts. On that page, we have an expense in the middle of the page of $1,780,000, and that takes into account a few components. One being the current a liability related to the current year of service. So, for example, if everybody had 10 years of service in the plan, that would represent the liability for the 11th year for all the people, and that's $804,000. The interest cost now, instead of us having an amortization, we just have an interest component. So the 914 is about 3.05% on the liability. In the past, that number would have been larger, because instead of paying an interest-only loan, you'd pay your mortgage over 30 years. So it would be a higher number. And then there's one more element there, just for experience. Gains and losses take place time to time due to census changes and premium rate increases and things like that. And that number there represents 64,000, just an amortization item, but just flipping, I'll just flip ahead a couple pages, you don't have to, but there was a gain, $389,000 loss.
What page are you on now?
That was 3 pages ahead, it was just, and I'll come to that page.
Okay.
But it's just that 389,000 out of 30 million is on the small side for what you'd expect to change from year to year. Just want to make that point. Okay, so on the next page, and Rob had touched base on it as well. There's disclosure that has to take place both for discount rate, whether it changes 1% up, 1% down, and also for the healthcare inflation if it went 1% up, 1% down. So, just on the liability for the discount rate, 31.7 million is the liability. If at 3.05, if the rate went to 2.05, then it would go to 36 million, and if it went to 4.05, it would go to 26 million. So, again, that's just a function of present values. Higher the interest rate, the more you could expect it to grow, so you'd have a lesser liability to grow to the same point and pay the payments. Okay, and again, 56 active, 65 retireds. On the next page is just a GASB 75 requirement. To the extent that there have been gains or losses that have not been funneled through expense and they've been deferred, they just need to be presented on a statement like this. And basically $324,000 was left due to expense losses, and it's going to be paid off over the next 5 years at $64,000 a year, and not paid, mind you. It's just charged through expense. Okay, the next page is basically, just a development of how we get from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Again, 30,000,003 was the beginning liability, 31,700 the end, and again, components of that. The 11th year service cost, the 804,000, interest on the obligation, benefit payments, 742,000. That's a subtraction out, and the difference, the remaining item is just a small loss for the year, about a little more than 1%. But that's a development required, and it's a useful tool. Okay, and just at the bottom of the page, they ask that we compare the liability to payroll, and spit out a percent, 444%. That percentage typically doesn't get very much attention, but it's a number that they want presented.
And while you're there, is our 445% not an unremarkable number, or?
It's not a remarkable number.
Yes.
It's not. Depends on the design of these programs.
Right.
But I had a meeting the other day, and their percentage was 900%.
Okay.
There's other ones that have more, modest programs in other states. Maybe they just have dental, they just have something else, and
Right.
then the percentage would be much lower. Okay. The following page is one number that they want us to present now is to present a number of sorts, so that if called the actuarial determined contribution, and it's an arbitrary number, and what we've done is we've said, okay, let's take that 11th year cost plus a 20-year amortization and present that as a potential, if you're going to pay off the obligation in 20 years. Now that 20-year it's arbitrary, and so again, municipalities never die, so you could pay it off it could be paid off over 50 years. It could, whatever the case may be. But whatever, we wanted to present something there to compare to the benefit payment amount, and then give you an idea of what the contribution might be in order to pay it off over that time. Now, again, we don't have that option here in New York State. Actually, like about 5 years ago, the controller, New York State Controller, came out with a proposal about possibly being able to set up either a state-wide OPEB trust or or potentially individual trusts for groups. But there hasn't been any traction, and when you're talking about 2% tax caps, where this pre-funding might come from is people scratch their head a bit. So it hasn't gotten much traction up to now. And again, OPEB is no different than many other debt instruments, where pension is kind of the exception to be able to pre-fund dollars. Just at the bottom of the page is some assumptions, which we also have in the back of the report. Again, the 3.05%, the most important one. On the next page, GASB has asked us over time to provide present a history of various numbers. So here we just have a 5-year history of what the expense was. Again, this year's was $1,078,000. Contribution $742,000. So, but it's just a historical that they'd like to track. And then on the following page is another schedule, again comparing the liability to the payroll, like that was at the bottom of that other page. So again, just a history. And again, the liability went up from 2017 to 2018 more than in the past, primarily because of that drop in the discount rate that was mandated under the new statement. The next few pages are, say, NA for the most part, and that's because they address, if you had an OPEB trust, what about interest rates and such, investment returns. But there are, again, we can't pre-fund, so so that we have one page, we have 2 pages that are just NA. On another page here, we recognize the fact that because there's no pre-funding permitted, we have to use the index. So 3.05 is the index. Another page, long-term rate, was again not applicable. And then we come to the plan provisions laid out. Here we're illustrating night ship rates from 2018. Granted, in our analysis, we did recognize the 2019 premiums when we did the liabilities as of May 31, 2019. That's something that's now required under the statement. So Medicare Part B premiums, the village pays. We have eligibility requirements on the following page for the uniformed and non-uniformed. And then we list some village subsidies here, how much is paid by the village and how much versus the employees. So, and again, there's 2012 was the last time that there was an adjustment to reach out to get some contributions from the retirees. And again, actually not from the retirees. The current retirees never get touched, almost never. And so it's a question of current employees, how much they would have to pay in the future. And in 2012, there were some changes from 100% by the village to 85% for admin hires. And then some other on the CSEA. So, but that's one area that again in order to as far as this liability and how it grows and such, again, there's no option on a pre-funding level. So the idea is to go to the design end and see what can be done. Again, you did some stuff in 2008 and 2012, but I know that binding arbitration is challenging and stuff. So, but we've seen some movement. It's just slow, in order to be able to get some traction here in terms of this type of plan. Again, it's always giving, okay, if you're going to make the retirees pay a little more, then you're going to have to give at the other end. Any good union is not going to just give it away for free. So, but But yeah, that's where, the design end is where this can be curtailed a bit. And one other thing is that I guess just in general, coverages under these plans, any medical plan, there's an intention to try to reduce coverages a little bit, increase a generic copay on a prescription, $10 to $15, other things that will happen. All of a sudden they ask you to pay for the first or second day in the hospital, things like that. So those subtle coverage issues to try to reduce costs are often part of the picture. And I think, Empire Night Ships coverages are, capture that. Next page here, funding policy. Again, you can only do pay as you go because we're New York State. We have our actuarial assumptions here, noting the 3.05%. And again, we do recognize the fact some people will, we're not as running liabilities assuming that all 56 active employees are going to make it to retirement. So we do have an assumption here for withdrawal, terminating, and on the next page we just have some rates, probability of retirees retiring before age 65, and truth of the matter is, even though the premium rates are higher for pre-65 people because there's no Medicare effective yet, the liabilities for the post-65 period are really the lion's share of things, because you're talking about from age 65 to 75, 85, 90 versus your non-uniform group, which might go out at 55 or something like that. Police are a little heavier because they can go out at 20 and out, but still the post-65 is the lion's share of the liability of the plan. And we have our healthcare inflation. We have we use a descending rate that's accepted under the industry, because if we assumed 8, 9, 10% increases, which doesn't always happen, but if we projected that, the truth of the matter is the healthcare would just totally consume our entire economy, so it's just not real. And again, just like I'm saying,
maybe real.
Sorry,
it's just,
which is not? Is it not real that that's happening, or is it not real that it's sustainable?
Yeah. Well, again, because of when we value a plan, we have to value it based on what's in effect today. Okay. But again, given the understanding that there's a little bit of downward pressure on coverages to reduce costs, that we can't explicitly recognize, but this kind of does that a little bit. And the one other element is that this schedule here, it restarts every year. So basically, rather than having using 8, 9% for all years and having a $60 million liability, what's happening is, okay, we've got the $31 million liability, and then each year there's going to be a little tiny tweak up, because we're starting the inflation rate over again. So, which might account to 1-2% of the liability, probably something pretty in line with how much the actual loss was during this particular year. Okay, so, and we've got participation rate, and then the last page we just have some select liability and GASB results by general fund, water fund, and refuse fund. So, of which the lion's share certainly is the general fund. Any questions?
So that discount rate varies somewhat year to year, obviously.
Yeah.
Not tremendously volatile.
It can move 1% in a year.
Right.
It could. I've seen it move significantly in a month, but again, it just.
Not the month we do this.
That just is going to come and go with interest.
Choose a different month to do this, would you?
Well, I'll tell you, June was worse. June was
So we just
2.79. So that's how they dropped almost 30 basis points. So, it's
saved by a day.
So, but that's
And do these OPEB liabilities, I gather, we sort of already touched on it, they're unremarkable results in comparison to the communities we might compare ourselves to?
yeah. I think in terms, they're in line certainly. I mean, again, you have a relatively mature plan where you actually have a few more retireds than active employees.
Uh-huh.
So, that being the case, this is what you're going to see. There's other groups that might have, 80% of actives and only 20% retired, so their dynamic is different. But yours, there's, for a mature group, again, we talked about the 400%.
Which is a way of saying a lot of us are old and a lot of people have retired and they haven't died yet.
Just,
right?
yeah, that's right, yep, and we're all there, so, but,
Yeah.
but that, no, I think that, there's, again, any efforts that can be made to, at the design end, through bargaining is certainly welcome and stuff.
And useful to have these numbers in that context, although not clear how much it moves the needle, but.
Yeah, and a lot of, again, what probably steps that you would ultimately more likely take is, again, laying on another tier. So it'd be about having new employees coming in, and when they retire, they'll have to contribute a little more. So if you have some people terminate employment that were under the old, and now these new people are hired, that's where your liability will start to see some leverage. But again, over time, again, from GASB 45, 10 years went pretty quickly. So in the next 10 years, if another couple of tweaks like this can be helpful.
And then I assume, the ongoing national discussion about the way we fund our healthcare system and arguments for and against single payer and all of that could, potentially change these numbers in a very significant way. You just don't know, right?
That's true. Yes, it is true. So, but this is where we are now, and again, not over. You're not at the top of the oh my God, versus other municipalities or something. But again, something to look at, think about in terms of any tweaks that can be made.
Right. All right. Thank you for that. Maybe this is a question more for Rob. I don't know. Obviously, it's useful to understand what these post-employee benefits look like. Are these numbers of interest to the rating agencies? Do they pay much attention?
Yes, that was one of the main elements when 45 came out initially.
Yes.
But unfortunately, what happened was 45 came out, and then the financial crisis hit, of which the bond rating agencies had blessed these wonderful CDOs that they were AAA rated and carrying a bunch of D stuff. So I think they went into they had a little lower profile for a period of time. But again, as far as that's concerned, again in New York, as far as bond rating agencies and bond issues, I mean everybody in New York is more or less in the same boat, aside from design, what they can. How they could scale back benefits and maybe have a little lower obligations than the other. But again, if everybody's still got the same collective bargaining issues, everybody's kind of in the same boat. So, so but yes, it's it's not something that the bond rating agencies are going to look at it, So, but that's again, just across the board, you should be relatively consistent, I suppose, with other municipalities.
Right. All right. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Sorry.
Come to the microphone and identify yourself, sir.
Shane McGaffey, 85 Nanahagan Road. I just want to be clear, I understand what we're talking about here, just to make sure. So the $31 million that we're talking about is retirement payments to everybody who works here now, has ever worked here.
Not pension, but health care.
Right. If the village ceased to exist today and we had to make all those payments now. Am I right?
Yes, as far as your retired group is concerned, it's basically a value of all the future payments that current retirees would have. Now, as far as actives, we're not anticipating that all actives would make it to retirement.
Sure, some
so
would
instead
die,
of,
some would be, some
yeah,
would
quit.
fire.
So
everybody else.
there's 56 actives. Well, basically, what we do is we value pieces of people, and I don't mean arms and legs,
Right.
but I mean, you know, we don't know which ones are going to retire, but we got 56 people, and you know, if you said 15 or 20 might make it or something, but that's what's gone into the value.
Right, and there are actuaries to determine all of this.
Yeah.
But, so if the village of Pleasantville ceased to exist today,
Bite your
we
tongue,
would,
McGee.
you know,
This is what we're on the hook for.
this is what we're on the hook for.
If the school district took all
Sure,
this over,
sure.
just
So under what circumstances would something like that ever happen? I mean, I'm getting to a point, but,
Right. Well, I'll tell you, you know, Detroit didn't even die. You know, that was the biggest one that, you know, all of a sudden, what generally happens is retirees never get touched in these types of things. It would be the the current actors. But what happens in Detroit, you know, they went bankrupt, but what happens, the retirees had to make a small concession on their pensions, and that helped them, you know, to the tune of maybe 5 or 6% of their monthly benefit. But that helped get them back out of bankruptcy. So, so in terms of a municipality going under, it is very unlikely.
right, I mean, so my whole point essentially is we're talking about this debt that we're not allowed to put money away for, so we can't save for it. And we're never gonna have to make it all at one time. And while it's helpful to maybe look at things and say, oh, look, this liability over time, if we make tweaks here and tweaks there, maybe we can lower it. Of course, we don't know how accurate the actuaries are, and we don't know what the interest rates are going to be over time, et cetera, et cetera. But there are some things we can do. But short of that, it's kind of a ridiculous exercise because we're never going to be paying that out, you know, because we're making yearly payments on it.
Correct
Is
me
that
if
a
I'm
fair?
wrong, but the idea was also in the private sector that this number wasn't visible very well. You couldn't find it. So in both the private sector and here, the idea behind this is quantify that obligation in your financial statements so that people can see it. So that when you're looking at the financial health of Pleasantville, you're not looking at that long-term pension liability in yearly increments, because it's really understating what the long-term, you know, if you're classifying long-term versus short-term debt, this is a long-term debt that we owe, and it's never quantified anywhere in
Sure,
one
but we're
lump
never
sum.
going to owe it at one time.
No, but in the spirit of transparency.
And so I think there's
No,
a lot
but
of
the
people
relevant-
who look at that number and say, oh my gosh, this is.
Sure, and that sometimes is the effect of
And
this,
that's
but-
also not a terrible thing. I mean, again, if you say, okay, we pay $750,000 toward premium payments, what does that tell you? People are going to say, okay, but all of a sudden you see a $30 million number. You know, it just gets a little bit more attention, and it could be the attention that you need in order to be able to go to the design end and be able to scale back and go to, you know,
Okay.
God forbid,
That's
go
a
to
good
the
point.
police union and say, listen, you know, I'm sorry, we can't pay 100% of this anytime. It's just brutal, you know. I mean,
I'm sure that
can you
the-
kick in 10. You know,
Throughout New York State and America, unions are horrified by these numbers and are rushing to reduce them.
I will
Well,
say, and it's
but
my
Shane, the
understanding-
other reason it does
Yeah.
matter though is if while the total number may not be important, the rate of growth of the healthcare costs actually is very relevant for us. So that's the thing that we have to keep
Yeah, I
an
know it's
eye on.
actually used a 3% inflation rate. Is that,
Okay, that is just an implicit rate that's, it really doesn't apply at all.
Okay.
Because of the fact that, you know, for example, if you had monies that you were in a pension, you were investing it,
Right.
you were assuming that your monies were going to earn 6% or 7%. Part of you determining that interest rate would be because of inflation.
Sure.
Okay, you know, if there's more inflation, it might be 8%. Here we've got a rate that is mandated.
Right.
Okay, whether it's 3.05, 2.05, so
so the net
that
inflation
reference there,
calculation
it's
here
really
is just on the table, it has no bearing?
pretty
on-
much, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Thank you.
So you Edward, Shane is a member of the school board, and you're just making him nervous because they have way more employees than we do, so.
It's also my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that in New York State, you're not allowed to diminish anybody's pension.
Oh, pension.
Or benefits.
Yeah,
I think that's in the New York State
pensions for
Constitution.
sure, and
Yeah.
I think, it comes down to the agreements they have. I mean, in the private sector, there are, in documents, I think there are places where that, as far, not for pension, qualified
yeah.
pension you can't, but, in a, and again, there's only, out of all these retiree medical plans, 90% of them are public sector.
Right.
And out of the other
Right.
10%, 9% are the auto industry, steel.
Steel,
So
right.
there's not much.
Aluminum.
Right.
But those documents could potentially say that we can shut it off at any time.
Right.
Or whatever, and then granted, there could still be suits.
No, I mean,
or
there's
whatever.
But this $30 million is one of the reasons why private sector companies don't do this anymore.
No, absolutely, but I also wanted to clarify that is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
The fact that, if all these payments from now until the end of,
Essentially,
until
the
the actuaries
discounted-
end,
It's the discounted present value of the
Right.
obligations of the village.
if you had to pay them all at
Yes,
once.
Right.
well, it's a discounted present value.
Yeah.
And just to be
Yeah.
clear for folks who are listening, the pension obligations are paid by us as a percentage of active payroll, and when someone retires, their pension benefit is paid by the state pension fund and not by us. That's not the case for post-retirement health benefits, which are paid by us. So, all right, sir, any other questions?
Thank you. It's a complicated topic, well
Yes.
explained.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Sorry we couldn't get the whole village to stay for this.
Yeah, we really should have done this, before they left, right? And then we should have given people certificates for participation.
Or a medal.
Or all the people that were an hour short.
Yeah. Who knows how many actuaries and accountants of the future were with us tonight and have missed this opportunity.
Not me.
All right, again, thank you, Mary, the Norreens, Eric.
Congratulations.
Really appreciate it, and thank you, Rob, as always, for a crisp and concise description of all that went on. All right, with that, we'll launch to the resolutions. 292, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the meeting held on November 25th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
I had one correction, and that was, I'll find it. I had it, and then I jumped to a different page and lost it. There it is, 286 shows Joe as voting aye but was absent.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Approval of the minutes as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved, 293. Steve,
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the reassignment of Police Officer James Chiarlitti to the Police Detective Division retroactive August 26, 2019, with an increase in annual salary to $121,961.44 and prorate of chart hour accruals.
is there a second?
Second.
This reflects a promotion of James to the Detective Division, and we intend to have a ceremony anointing him as a new detective, even though he is already in that role, but this provides the proper background to put him into that salary class. Comments or questions?
Was this planned?
Yes.
Yes. We budgeted for it and all that?
Right, it's just a change in personnel. It's not an additional,
Right.
right, so,
Someone come out and someone.
right. We had a detective who chose to return to the patrol division.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Very good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. David, 294.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments as listed below. From the contingent fund, $5,000 to Village Hall outside service for HVAC analysis.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this reflects the discussion at work session, discussion last time, hiring Burley Gallagher to figure out how to improve and better maintain our system
And ultimately, we're going to go out to bid for a service contract on that infrastructure.
based on that.
And Robert made it clear that he's also going to look at the whole plant and equipment in the entire building. It's not just HVAC, right?
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 295.
Who
Nicole.
seconded that?
Not
I
me.
Did we
I
have a
did.
second?
I did.
You voted aye.
I
so
did
you-
I voted
you
aye.
I
could have
think we
just
had
as
a moan, I don't know.
you could have just as
Thank you, I couldn't.
he
It was
just
an aye.
just seconding it. He just couldn't quite make it happen. Okay, 295. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated December 9th, 2019 for fiscal year 2020, covering check numbers 95430 to 95590 as listed below. From the general fund, $1,152,736.53. The water fund, $94,404.34. Capital fund, $40,669.51. Refuse fund, $122,903.92. Trust fund, $22,651.50 for a total of $1,433,365.80.
Is there a second?
Second.
We don't spend $1.4 million every twice a month. This is the disbursement journal that includes the payments to the pension plan.
Police and general employees.
Yeah, I have a quick question. The injury fees, miscellaneous senior programs from Tai Chi, what is that exactly? It's a small number, but
What
it's
page are you
on
on?
page 12, 95478. Somebody injured in a Tai Chi class?
Does it have the, what was the check written to on that
Janet
one?
Keel, Kiel.
Oh, wait, page check.
I don't tell me the back up. 'Cause it hasn't been scanned yet, so I can't. Kiel?
Mm-hmm. You can, if you want to follow up with it, and just send us a note. Just curious.
No, that's why we had it at the meeting.
Looks like it was a refund for the class.
Yeah.
Right, a refund of a enrollment,
I'm just trying to.
$30.
I'm just trying to understand why there's the injury
Yeah, why
fees.
did we avert
Yeah,
that?
due to.
So the person signed up was injured and then
Oh,
asked
it was
for
not
thought-
injured
so we
during
were
the
charging
class.
her to be
No,
Yes.
Due to refund for unattended
The
classes.
sprained ankle's $30.
All right.
You break it, you charge it $400.
I hope
I hope so.
she feels better soon. Any other comments or questions?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. That is the last of our regular agenda items. Is there any new business? Any comment from the public? A quiet room? All right. Again, a shout out to the 50 or so young people we honored tonight at our annual youth recognition. Thank you for all of your service, and thank you particularly for giving us the opportunity to celebrate community service at a moment when that feels particularly important for all of us. Is there a motion to adjourn and to return to work session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. See you I didn't report our next meeting, and I should have.
special bill pass on the 23rd.
Yep.
Right, so the weekend, the holiday schedule is coming in. We have a special bill pass meeting on the 23rd. Right?
Right, and then the next regularly scheduled meeting would be January 13th.
Okay. Thank you all. If you don't watch us at a special bill payment meeting on the 23rd, which may actually not even be televised, it's rather short and mostly procedural meeting. We wish everybody an extremely happy holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate. And from the bottom of our hearts and on behalf of everybody who's worked so hard for us this week, we hope that the coming year is bright for all of us. Thank you and good night.